everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Kat, and for today we are on to another set of speed reviews of 4 new palettes. So we have these 4 babies right here that we're going to be taking a look at, and so let's just immediately jump right in as we always do. First up is going to be from Lethal Cosmetics. This is the Berlin 89 palette. Very, very cool. So it had kind of like a cutout of the words on there, and then this is what it looks like on the inside. So I really kind of like that aesthetic already. And then on the inside, this is what we have. Really nice color story, definitely representing the German flag on this side. Some of the more grungy colors that you would expect from Berlin on the other side. And then we do have a multi-chrome in this one, so I'm obviously gonna swatch that one. And this is the shade Breakthrough. And since this palette came out, Lethal has dropped another palette that is nothing but multi-chromes. So you can kind of see that this guy goes from like yellowish, orange, red, magenta, a little bit of green on there as well. Definitely has a deeper base to it, but just really nice start to the collection. And I did end up picking up their new palette that is nothing but multi-chrome. So as soon as that arrives, you can definitely believe I will be doing a video on that for you guys. So the look that I ended up coming up with was this one, and I really enjoyed kind of the contrast of the yellow with the grays. The shades blended together really, really nicely. It was nice and pigmented, but blended out really, really well. So the formula is super easy to work with for the mattes. For the shimmer side, I ended up only slightly using the shimmers. I layered a little bit of Reunion, which is that gold shade on the lid, just ever so slightly to make the yellow really pop. And then on the inner corner is where I put in the multi-chrome because I was like, this would be something fun to do. Really enjoyed it. The palette does only have 3 metallics in there. You have the multi-chrome, the yellowish gold shade, and then an iridescent shade. Everything else is matte shades, but they all work really, really nicely together, and I really enjoyed it, so I would highly recommend. For those of you that don't live in Germany, because Lethal Cosmetics is based out of Germany, I usually tend to wait for their sales if I can. They do every so often on their Instagram post if they're having like free shipping type things, or if there's going to be a sale where you get like 10 or 20% off. So I kind of follow that and then use that as my guide so that I don't have to pay as much for shipping, just because it is a little bit expensive to come to the United States. But for those of you that live in Europe, I would highly recommend checking them out because they are an outstanding indie brand from Germany, so highly recommend. Next up, we have from Gourmande Girls. This is the That Time of Year palette, and I really like the design for Christmassy stuff on there, but even though the design on the cover is Christmassy, the shades on the inside can be used pretty much year-round. So I really like the diversity that you're getting within the color story on here. This palette was a culmination of not only Christina from Gourmande Girls, but she also did a collab with 3 other creators. You have Debutante, the lovely Debutante, then you also have Adventures of Zinnia, and you have the Brutally Honest Beauty. So all 3 creators, make sure you go check them out. They have done just a ton of looks with this palette, and so if you want to see more than what I came up with, definitely go check them out. But I did 2 looks with this particular palette. The first one is definitely more on the like Christmassy holiday side, where I was primarily sticking with the shades on this side of the palette. So we have lots of like the blues, purples, and then some of the lighter shimmers. So I will go ahead and swatch Icicle for you because I definitely used that shade, and this is a beautiful duo slash multi-chrome shade depending on how the light hits it. It does have a significantly lighter red base to it, and so I would recommend going in with like 2 swipes if you really want to build it up. But it has that nice reddish kind of base and then bluish purple on top, so you can start off with the red base there and then really see the bluish purple sheen that is on top. So very, very nice shade. And then we will also swatch Silver Bells because that's probably one of my favorite shades in this palette. But we all know I love a good cool toned foil shade, which this guy is absolutely that. I mean, look at that. Beautiful gunmetal gray shade. Same formula style as this shade is, in that you would want to go in with like 2 layers, I think, to get like maximum opacity. But Really, really nice. I mean, you can definitely have already a huge amount of pigment just with one swipe, and so they are really, really nice. The second look that I did was definitely more of a fall vibe, and so I was sticking with all of the shades on this side of the palette. So you have really nice rich reds and greens with a little bit of like the browns and golds in there. And so even if you are someone that like loves neutral shades, you're definitely going to have a good smattering of neutrals in there as well, which is something that Gourmande Girls does really, really well. So really love the whole palette. I think that the mattes are great. They blended together beautifully, really nice. You can start off lighter, go really, really rich and deep like I did with the shades, or just go nice and blended and smoked out. So absolutely love that palette. Next up we have from Jolie Beauty. This is the Vampirism palette, and Jolie Beauty is actually new to my channel, so I'm really excited to talk about them with you guys. It is a newer, to me at least, indie brand. This is the color story inside of here. Just a mammoth of a palette. Really huge, but has just so many different shades in here. This entire side is more of like, starts off cool toned neutrals, then goes into more warm toned neutrals, then goes into, you know, starting to get into some of your reds, and then into the deeper purples. And this row in the middle here has some surprises. So we are going to swatch the shade Venom, because if anything, that's going to give us a quick comparison to the Lethal Cosmetics one, because this is a similar multi-chrome on there, where it has like the deeper green to gold to orange to red. So that is that guy. And so you can definitely see some of the similar hits of colors on there. I would say that this guy, the shifts are a little bit more apparent, but this one is definitely like a little bit deeper toned than this guy. So very interesting to see the difference between those two, but still a really, really nice shade. So for the look that I came up with, I definitely was sticking more to like the reds and plum shades. For this look, it might not look like it, but I was using about 8 different shades. And that just goes to show you how flawlessly they all blended together. So I was really, really impressed with the pigments of the matte shades on here. They worked really, really nicely. I had 0 complaints. And so I mean, for a brand new indie brand for me to try, I was like a little hesitant. I love this look, and I mean, so many of you guys were like, what palette did you use? So clearly you guys loved it too, and I just think it looked absolutely awesome. I used a nice gold metallic on the inner corner, and that is the Hypnotic shade. So let's swatch that guy. I mean, beautifully pigmented, really strong shade, just absolutely love it. And it's just really fun because all of the shade names are different things related to vampires. You have some actual vampire names like Lestat, and I thought that was so, so cool. The only critique that I have for this palette is there are in fact 2 pressed glitter shades, this guy and that one right there. And we do know I'm not a huge fan of pressed glitters. I prefer just normal shimmers and metallic shades. And so I would rather they were not there and they were just regular metallics instead. But for those of you that love pressed glitters, they are in there. I will let you know though that whatever the mixing medium is that they were using for the pressed glitters in this palette, it did have a little bit more potent of like a chemical-y smell. And so I needed to leave the palette out for like an hour or so just to let it air out, and then the smell dissipated and it was fine. But that was something that when I first opened it up, I was like, ooh, it is potent of a smell. And so that really was the only thing that I like kind of turned me off a little bit to it. But as far as the quality of the shades, the metallics are stunning, mattes are stunning, really, really enjoyed it, so I would highly recommend. Then finally we have from Moira Cosmetics, this is the Wild in Colors Exotic Series palette. There are 4 different color stories that you can get of this particular theme, and this is what the inside looks like, very geometric. And all 4 palettes do have this same layout, but they are all different color stories. And so this was the one that spoke to me the most. Probably pretty obvious why, because we know I love good palette full of greens, blues, and purples. So that is the eye look that I have on for today. and I mainly stuck with the purples, pinks, and blues for this particular look. This palette does only have 2 metallic shades. You have this deeper green and then this lighter champagne shade. This is a pressed glitter and this guy is a pressed glitter. And so that is it. Everything else is matte shades. So I will swatch the 2 metallic shades for you guys. And they do have kind of a similar formula to like Glam Light and Beauty Bay in that the metallics are very soft. So you need to be gentle. And this is the deeper green one. Just really beautiful shade on there. So the metallics are absolutely gorgeous. They have a little bit of that glittery look and feel to them on top, but you do need to be careful as you're going in there because they are very, very soft. But I do recommend applying them with a finger because if you try and use a brush, you're not going to get quite as much impact on there. So I always, for that particular type of formula, use my finger. And then here is the champagne-y shade, which now that I'm looking at it, might almost have a bit of a greenish undertone to it. It is a little bit of a grungy kind of champagne-y shade. Definitely like a little bit of an olive undertone on there, so that's actually pretty cool. I like that a lot. Unexpected for what I thought it was gonna be, so that's actually really cool. I think that overall, I mean, I love the Glam Light and Beauty Bay shimmer formula, so no complaints there whatsoever. So I think that since this is a very similar formula, I'm gonna love any of them. I just wish that they had a few more shimmers. Maybe just replace the 2 pressed glitters with shimmers and then we'll be good to go. But as far as the matte shades go, it's not my favorite matte formula. It did take a little bit of working with it to build up everything, and the blending didn't go quite as smoothly as I would like. I did try a bit of a new tactic on this one though, where I was trying to kind of soften out the edges so that there wasn't quite as much of a stark line, and I did really like how nicely that worked out, where it didn't like overshadow any of the shades with another, so just taking a clean brush and kind of smoking it out worked out pretty well. So for that regard, really enjoyed the formula. It did that beautifully. I did, for like the inside portion of the lid, blend together the pink and purple shades, and I do think that the shades mix well with each other. I just think as far as like placement of the colors goes, I had to work a little harder to get rid of like any patchy spaces, but I was able to get a final look that looked really, really nice, and so not bad at all. And Moira Beauty is definitely pretty inexpensive. I want to say that this palette was like around 20 bucks, which isn't bad at all because you're getting a ton of shades. And I really like that my favorite shades are in the center and are huge pans, so that works out really well. So I mean, aside from the pressed glitters and just wishing I could blend a little bit faster because of my laziness, I think that it worked out really, really well. So no complaints really about Moira Cosmetics either, but I would love to know what you guys think. Let me know about all 4 palettes. What do you think about the looks that I came up with? What do you think about the palettes themselves and the color stories? Have you guys grabbed any of the palettes? I know a bunch of you have picked up the That Time of the Year palette, and I would love to know what you guys think of it. But for all of them, I would love to know what your thoughts are. What do you guys think of the different swatches, the few multi-chromes that we had in a couple of the palettes? I think that's probably for me the most exciting thing to see for a lot of indie brands these days, is the inclusion of more duo and multi-chromes in just main palettes, you know, rather than having them sold as like singles and everything. I love the brands are starting to incorporate them into palettes. You guys really can see just how cool some multi-chromes can be, so I absolutely love that. But give me a thumbs up if you liked the video, thumbs down if you did not. Let me know either way, as we always do here. And if you made it to the end of the video and you have not yet subscribed, I would love it if you would come join my family here on YouTube. We talk a ton about indie brands, love talking about colorful makeup, doing all of the swatches for you guys, and so if you like that, feel free to join my family on here and click the subscribe button. And other than that, you guys just go have a good one.